Hey guys, I'm Tim Langston with Red Dog Bushcraft, home of global safety and survival. Today, as part of a cutting tool series, I'm going to talk about one of my everyday carry tools, and that is a multi-tool. So stand by here, I'll bring you in a little bit closer, put the camera right down here on the stump. I've got 5 different cutting tools and a way of maintaining them laid out here, and we'll go through them and I'll tell you exactly what I look for in a good quality multi-tool and why I carry it every day. I'll get this camera repositioned and we'll start. Okay, so let's begin this discussion today on why is it that I carry a multi-tool versus a straight sheath knife for everyday carry. This right here, if I had my choice, this would be my tool that I would carry. But because of the work that I do, that's not acceptable. And I must admit, I'd say that I would carry that sheath knife, but I'm not too sure that I wouldn't maintain that multi-tool. Now, every day when I go to work, and most of the days that I'm off, even if I'm carrying my belt knife, this is the particular multi-tool that I carry. I've carried this one for a couple of years now, and I really like the pouch that this multi-tool comes in. It has these loops on either side, and several of these cases I have upgraded so that they do. Get into frame here. You can see this loop on this side I utilize to hold a fire steel. On this side, an ink pen. Many times it's replaced with a whistle when I'm out in the bush. And here in the back is a small compartment. Okay, it's very cold out here and my hands are freezing, so I'm having a hard time. But there's an elastic area right here, and that's where I put my Surefire. You can take a mini Inferno and trim it to where it fits in there and wrap it nice and tight with a piece of wax paper and tape it and slide it right down in there, so you've always got Surefire with you at all times. Alright, enough about the cases. And even the cases that I've bought from companies like Condor, I'll look for the ones that have these elastic loops on the sides that allow me to do the same thing. It's just a nice quality ballistic nylon sheath with a Velcro fastener, and some of them are solid loops and some of them are buttons. That's kind of a preference that you'll have to decide. The nice thing about a button is it allows you to put it on and off without taking your belt off. The nice thing about them being solid, like this one right here, is you don't have to worry about that button coming unsnapped and you losing it while you're out in the woods. Okay, my everyday carry is the Leatherman Wave, and the reason I choose this particular multi-tool is because I really like the ability to open my 2 blades, my knife blades, without having to open the tool. The other thing that I use a lot is this small file. It has a wood file on one side, metal file on the other, and for striking my ferro rod I use the saw. And these little saws are underrated by many people. For doing small cutting tasks, your tent pegs, making your fire boards for different primitive means of fire making techniques, just for creating very small stakes and stick type projects around camp. These things are phenomenal, and you'd be surprised the size of the wood that you can cut with the proper technique with just this little small saw blade. Having a saw blade, I feel, is one of the things that is absolutely critical to have on a multi-tool. Once you open the tool up, it has a decent set of jaws on it, and you can look up all of the specs on this particular tool and what it has. But for me at work, this little small screwdriver and the ability to have the bit here, the Phillips head or the flat that you can flip around one side or the other, it locks into this little keeper here. I use those a lot, and because of the fire and rescue type work that I do and working on alarm systems or going out and having to mess with the alarm systems, this tool serves my needs both at work and when I'm off duty most of the time. Now there are a couple of features that that tool does not have, and Leatherman, let me just make something known to you right here off the bat. There's many different multi-tools on the market. And before we start talking, spending a lot of time on the meat and potatoes of these different multi-tools, here we have the Leatherman Super Tool. Here we have the Leatherman Rebar. And the one that I just showed you that I use as my everyday carry is the Leatherman Wave. I've also got experience with the Gerber. When Gerber first come out and started making a multi-tool, I bought this one, and I bought it for fishing because you simply do that and the pliers are out and you can use it to remove fish hooks from fish. And that was the biggest reason that I bought this tool. Since then, if I was going to carry a Gerber, it would be the diesel. It still has the same functions, but it's a little bit of a more robust tool in my opinion. But like I said, before we get into a lot of discussion on multi-tools, let me just say that in my opinion, and what I choose to carry, is going to be a Leatherman. Leatherman is the most superior multi-tool on the market that I have found and used for any significant amount of time. Now, with that said, the tools that I look for on a multi-tool, of course your pliers are the meat and potatoes of it. And I really like the ability to change out these teeth, because if you know, we all have a tendency to cut stuff that's too big. And when you do that and you mess up the teeth, this one has the replacement cutters in it, which is very nice. I like the knife on the Leatherman. I feel that it is a easier tool to sharpen and maintain the cutting edge. I like the size of the file, and I like the grit of the file, the cutting edge of it. Not a big fan of the blades with the serrated edges, but in fire and rescue work, working with rope, it does come in handy. The saw, once again, is absolutely critical. But the other item that I'm looking for that you don't see on a lot of the multi-tools is an awl. I think an awl is a really handy thing to have when you're out in camp, and that is one of the items that I look for on the multi-tools. So, a good cutting blade, an awl, the saw, the file, a good straight edge cutting blade, and the pliers is the meat and potatoes. That is the 6 criteria that I concentrate on. I do like the Wave and being able to have these blades on the outside. I wish that was integrated into the Super Tool. I don't know how they could do that, but if they could come up with one the size of this Super Tool that has the functions of that Wave and an awl, that would be fantastic. So, talking about weight versus practical carry, and you're going out to buy a tool, do you buy something cheaper, or do you buy a Leatherman, which is going to run you a little bit more money? What's the cost and the gain here? If I had to start out with something less expensive, I would go with one of the minis or the micros, and that's what I would carry, because even though it's a smaller tool, it's a high quality tool and it fits nice in a mini little small survival kit that you can carry every day. For an everyday tool, as far as using around camp, would I go out and buy one of the ones that you find at the big box stores and stuff? I have several of those. I've used them and I've broken, or they have rust or failed me in some way every single time. They're just not a reliable piece of equipment that I have been able to find. I have not had a Leatherman fail me yet. I have worn some of them to the point that I have sent them back and had them rebuilt. Had absolutely no issues with that, but that was from wear and tear, not as a failure on that particular tool. If you're going to pick a tool that you're going to carry every day, this is going to be your everyday carry, and if you get caught in an emergency, this is what you're going to have to rely on. I'm going to go with my Leatherman. Okay, so when it's all said and done, what would my recommendation be in a multi-tool? Well, it's going to be one of two. And the difference in these two tools is really going to be the size. If you want something that is smaller and lightweight, I would recommend the Leatherman Rebar. Has all of the features that I talked about. Those features, once again, are a good quality saw, decent size, a file, an awl, a decent size smooth blade. In my line of work, the other blade does come in quite handy. I must admit, I don't like it out in the bush, but for cutting rope, it's hard to beat that serrated edge. And a decent size pair of pliers that has the replaceable cutting. That is the Leatherman Rebar. It also has the lockbacks, which is a very nice feature on the multi-tool because it is pretty easy to cut yourself with a folding blade. If you don't mind carrying something that's a little bit heavier, if I had to have one multi-tool to carry with me out in the bush or in a get-home bag or so, it would be this one right here. This is the Leatherman Super Tool. It's one of the more expensive in their line, but it has all of the same features, but everything is a little bit bigger. A little bit more beef on the blade, a little bit better quality, I believe, as far as the serrated blade goes. All of the other screwdrivers and stuff that don't matter as much to me, but they are more robust. But the awl is really nice, and the size of the pliers, you can really get in and do some serious work with those. And once again, we have that locking feature on this. But I will tell you, if you're going to carry this on your belt, this is a pretty good sized tool, and there is some weight to it. Here's the two compared side by side, and I wish I had the weight of them, but I don't. But you can look them up on Leatherman's website and get all of the actual weights and measurements on them. Okay, so that's my two recommendations on multi-tools. So why am I spending so much time on multi-tools? Well, in a day and a time that it's becoming an issue carrying a knife with you everywhere that you go, having the ability to keep a tool that will offer you some ability to make yourself more self-reliant, I think is absolutely critical. And a good quality multi-tool will serve you very well if you use it with care and in a way that it is designed to be used. Fantastic tool. I tell people all the time, if I was a mechanic, I wouldn't want to make my living with it. If I was an electrician, it wouldn't be my primary tool. But to use as a backup, to work around, to use to get you by until you can get something else, it's an awfully handy thing to have sitting right on your belt or on your pack. As far as the care and maintenance of these, this little Smith Tri-Home system, which is just some water stones that come in a coarse, a medium, and a fine, is really all that I need for touching up the blade. I use a small diamond file for touching up the serrated blade, but I really don't use that a lot, and I've only ever had to sharpen one, and that's the one that I've carried for years. After I sharpened it, I found one on sale at in a catalog that I was able, I just replaced the blade and put a brand new one in it without any issue at all. They're pretty easy to work on. As far as lubrication and cleaning, I like to use an air hose to blow them off real good. I spray them down with WD-40, wipe them down really well, blow all the excess oil back off. And as far as rust or corrosion or them have an improper function. I haven't had any issues at all. Well, thanks for joining me. I hope if you go out to buy a multi-tool, you'll take a look at this. You'll consider some of these things, some of the tool options that are out there. There are a ton of different options out there on the market right now, and those are just the ones that I find work for me around the house and in my everyday life, as well as out in the bush. And it's just something for you to consider as you decide what would be the best application and best tools to have on your person when you're out in your daily life. So just a few things for you to think about. Thanks for joining me once again. I'm Tim Langston with Red Dog Bushcraft, home of global safety and survival. Until next time, God bless.